I still have the message, not because I couldn't erase it, but because some part of me needed to hold onto the exact phrasing. No more closeness, get over it. That was it. No heads up, no explanation. Just a quick tap of her finger and my entire world tilted. I stared at the phone longer than I should have. You know that feeling when your mind just refuses to make sense of something absurd? That's what hit me. Like trying to force a jagged piece of pain into a smooth circle of faith. At first I thought it was a prank. Some dumb joke, but my wife wasn't the type to kid around, especially not about something like this. And definitely not these days. I didn't reply. I sat there, frozen on the edge of our bed, my hand slowly dropping the phone to my knee while my brain started rewinding the past few weeks, maybe months. I couldn't pinpoint when it started, but something had been draining from our marriage like a quiet leak, barely noticeable unless you were really looking. Apparently I hadn't been. Her name's Lauren. We've been married for 8 years. The first 3, amazing. The next 2, solid. The last 3, somewhere between emotionally drained and numbly comfortable. I figured it was just a rough patch. Work stress, exhaustion, life piling up like it does for every couple. But she saw it as a signal, a prompt, a go-ahead to shift the dynamic entirely. And apparently texting your husband that he'd no longer be touched, cherished, or wanted was now a perfectly fine way to communicate. I didn't bring it up that night. She got home late, as usual, and gave me a faint nod as she tossed her keys into the bowl and headed straight for the bathroom. I heard the shower running. She stayed in there for over an hour, and when she came out, hair dripping, she went straight to the spare room with a folded towel and a mug of tea, acting like nothing had happened. Like I wasn't even there. The bed felt massive that night. Not just physically, but emotionally. Colder, empty. And for the first time in ages, I didn't try to fix it. I didn't knock on her door. I didn't type out a heartfelt text asking what I'd done wrong. I didn't sit in the kitchen sipping whiskey, waiting for her to come back to reality. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking, fine, let's handle it then. In the days that followed, something shifted in me. Not loudly. Not like in a movie where I threw my wedding band in the garbage or stormed off to crash at a friend's place. No, this was subtler, more precise. I stopped asking if she wanted dinner. Stopped checking if she was okay when she seemed off or annoyed. Stopped making excuses for why she no longer smiled at my humor or met my gaze during conversations. It wasn't that I stopped caring. It was that I stopped pursuing. I'd spent years believing that if I just tried harder, showed up more, earned more, helped more at home, supported her job, gave her space, gave her compliments, gave her everything, something would change. That one day she'd look at me the way she used to. Like I was someone who mattered. But when someone texts you they've drawn a line, it's only fair to take them seriously. She thought she could withhold affection and still expect devotion. That she could say, get over it, and I'd keep circling her like a loyal satellite, grateful to stay in her orbit. But something had split open inside me that night, not shattered. No, this was something else, something liberated. About a week later, I noticed her phone buzzing more than usual. She'd chuckle at texts I wasn't included in. She'd make excuses to stay out late, always group projects or team drinks or some seminar she couldn't skip. I started watching closer. Not for revenge, not yet. I just wanted to understand what get over it really meant to her. Because clearly we weren't reading from the same playbook anymore. The signs weren't blatant, just small shifts. Perfume when she left the house at 7 p.m. with no specific event named. Her phone angled away from me on the couch. An unknown number she swiped away quickly with a nervous glance when she thought I wasn't looking. But the biggest clue wasn't any of that. It was her best friend, Rachel. Suddenly she was around more often, bringing wine, whispering, giggling behind closed doors. I'd known Rachel for years, Lauren's ride or die since college. But something about her energy felt off lately. Too involved, too invested, like she had a stake in this. One night I overheard them laughing in the kitchen after I'd gone upstairs. Something about finally putting him in his place. I didn't catch the rest. I didn't need to. A boundary had been set, and I was starting to see who'd helped her draw it. I didn't lose it. I didn't charge downstairs. I didn't even finish the whiskey I'd poured. Instead, I quietly walked to my office, opened my laptop, and started a list. A very specific one. Get over it, huh? All right then. Let's get to it. I didn't transform overnight. That would have been too simple, too obvious. Instead, I adjusted slowly, subtly. The first thing I did was stop being available. Not in a dramatic, spiteful way. I just shifted like she had. If closeness was off the table, so were the small comforts she'd taken for granted. No more back rubs while she ranted about work. No more last-minute dinner plans or checking if she'd eaten. No more weekend errands where I followed her like a loyal puppy with a credit card. I even stopped fixing things. The wobbly kitchen drawer that always jammed, still jams. The flickering bathroom light she used to text me about weekly, still flickers, and when she asked, finally noticing, I looked her square in the eye and said, "You're capable, you'll sort it out." She didn't like that, but she didn't say much either. That's what our marriage had turned into, a polite exchange of practical questions in flat tones. No arguments, no warmth, just two people running a household like coworkers stuck on a failing project. Funny how fast someone notices you're gone when you're still right there. One morning she said, "You haven't made coffee lately." I just shrugged and said, "Thought you wanted space." She blinked, then turned away. It's wild how someone can pull something out of a relationship, like affection or openness, and expect the rest to hold together. Like pulling a support beam from a house and expecting the roof to stay up. But I wasn't here for a fight. I was here for clarity. Rachel started coming over more. Too much, honestly. I'd come home from work and find them on the couch, legs tucked up, wine glasses in hand, whispering and laughing like teenagers at a sleepover. Every time I walked through, I'd get that fake smile. Lauren's way of saying play nice while Rachel said, "Go ahead, ask something." I didn't, because I'd already started keeping track. Not in a creepy, obsessive way, I'm not that guy. But I'm not clueless either. I began noting the nights Lauren got home late, the outfits that didn't match her vague stories, the predictable timing of her work events on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then there was the dinner. A coworker, Sarah, caught me in the break room and said, "Hey, I think I saw your wife the other night. Was she at that rooftop sushi spot with you?" I shook my head, keeping my expression neutral. "Nope. Haven't been there in ages." She looked puzzled. "Oh, weird. Must have been someone who looked like her, except she was wearing that emerald dress." I knew the dress. Lauren wore it when she wanted to stand out, and I hadn't seen it in months. "Could have been her," I said. "She's got great style." Sarah gave me a cautious look like she wished she hadn't said anything. I didn't mind. That was the moment it all clicked. That night, Lauren walked in distracted. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her bag on the floor, and didn't even glance at me. I was at the kitchen counter, eating takeout straight from the box, something I hadn't done in years. She looked at the food, then at me like the scene didn't compute. "You didn't cook?" she asked. "Nope." "Oh," she lingered for a second, waiting for more. I didn't offer it. "Long day?" I asked, keeping it light. "Yeah." "You know deadlines?" She scratched her neck, eyed the wine rack, then walked off. I ate slowly. It felt like a small win. The next few weeks were a study in quiet exposure. I stopped wearing my wedding ring. Told her it felt tight since I'd been hitting the gym more, which was true. I'd joined a gym, started eating better, dropped 12 pounds without mentioning it to her. Gained some definition in places she used to touch without thinking. Now she didn't notice, or maybe she did, but she was too stubborn to say so. I started staying late at work, not because I had to, but because I could. No check-in texts, no guilt. Sometimes I'd hit a bar solo, sit at the counter with a beer and my thoughts, and just watch people. Couples laughing, singles flirting, people trying, at least they were trying, and that's when it sank in she wasn't. Lauren wasn't trying. Not with me, not with herself, not even with the lies she was living. She'd gotten comfortable expecting love she'd stopped giving, oblivious to the comfort she no longer offered. And I was done handing out emotional credit like some endless ATM of patience. But what really lit the fuse, what set the next step in motion, was something I overheard late one night. She thought I was asleep upstairs. I wasn't. I'd gone down for water and paused at the base of the stairs when I heard her voice. "I think he's finally getting it," Lauren said. "He's pulled back, cold as ice lately." Then Rachel's voice. "Good. Maybe now he'll see how much he leaned on you. Maybe he'll value what he lost." And then they laughed, not loud, just soft, smug, intimate. I stood there in the dark, holding my glass of water, listening to them treat my emotional distance like a lesson I was supposed to learn. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about power. She thought she could weaponize distance, that I'd grovel for scraps of attention. But I was done with that game. And when I made my move, neither of them would see it coming. Lauren's mood started shifting about a week after that overheard conversation. At first, it was subtle, little signs of unease behind her indifference. She'd pause longer after I answered her questions, glance at me sideways when I moved around the house. One night she even asked, "Is something wrong?" I just smiled and said, "Nope." Silence has a way of getting loud if you hold it long enough, and she was starting to hear it. She kept up her routine. Long showers, late nights out, vague stories about planning sessions or brunch with Rachel. But her confidence was fraying. I could see it in the way she hesitated before grabbing her keys or checked her makeup twice in the hall mirror. And when she asked if I wanted to join her and Rachel for dinner the next Saturday, something she hadn't done in over a year, I knew it was starting. She was trying to figure out how far she'd pushed. "Can't," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "Got plans?" She didn't ask what they were. She never used to care about my plans. Now she was wondering why she didn't know them. Rachel showed up 2 days later, unannounced, uninvited, and way too confident. I was home early, tightening a loose cabinet door in the kitchen, not for her. I just needed to use the drill and couldn't remember where I'd stashed it. When the doorbell rang, I didn't bother checking who it was. She walked in like she owned the place. Hair up, sunglasses on her head, and that smile, half friendly, half arrogant. "Hey, stranger," she said, glancing around. "Lauren home?" "Nope." She looked disappointed but not shocked. "Oh, thought she might have left early. We were supposed to go over party plans." I just nodded and went back to the cabinet. Rachel leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "So, you two doing all right?" That's when I turned to face her fully. No fake smile, no fake warmth, just a calm, steady look. "We're doing whatever she wants us to be doing," I said. Rachel tilted her head, something glinting in her eyes, almost like she was amused. "She mentioned you've been distant, like stone cold." "She's perceptive," I said, then added, "takes one to know one." Rachel raised her eyebrows. "You think I'm cold?" "I think you've been fanning flames you started yourself," I replied. "And now you're surprised it's spreading." There was a pause, her posture shifted. She straightened up, that polished confidence slipping just a bit. "I was trying to help her," she said, less certain now. "You've been emotionally absent for years. She needed to find herself again." "No," I said quietly. "She needed someone to feed the part of her that craved control. And you just wanted a front row seat." She didn't deny it. She didn't need to. There was a long silence before she gave a small, humorless laugh. "Wow, you're sharper than she gives you credit for." "I'm not playing anymore," I said. "Whatever game you two were running, it's done." Rachel stared at me for a long time, calculating, maybe even a little regretful. "You're not as boring as she always painted you." I didn't flinch. "And you're not as loyal as she thinks." That hit. She grabbed her purse without another word and left. The second the door closed, I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder. The whole exchange was crystal clear. That night Lauren came home early for once. She looked exhausted, not just physically, soul-deep tired. She set her purse down and lingered near the kitchen island. "I ran into Sarah," she said after a moment. I didn't respond. "She said you've been looking good lately, slimming down, dressing sharper." Still, I stayed quiet. Then came the question she didn't want to ask. "Is there someone else?" That made me laugh, quietly, almost reflexively. "No," I said, "but you've definitely made space for someone, haven't you?" She blinked fast, caught off guard by my tone. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you can't be shocked when someone stops showing up after you lock them out." She took a step closer. "You're twisting this, you shut down first." "No," I said calmly. "You ended closeness with a text. Remember, get over it. That's what you said, and I did." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. There was a moment, just a flicker, where I thought I saw something in her eyes. Not guilt, not sorrow, doubt. The seeds were planted now. She didn't know how far I'd gone or what I'd already figured out, but she could feel it. And Rachel. She wouldn't stay quiet for long. People like her never do. When truth starts to crack, it doesn't break all at once. It peels slowly, and we were just getting started. I think there's a moment in every unraveling where the person who pulled the thread finally feels the fabric collapse beneath them. For Lauren, it hit on a Tuesday. She came home early again. That alone raised red flags. She stood in the doorway longer than usual, almost like she was practicing her lines. Purse still on her shoulder, expression unreadable. "Can we talk?" she asked. I closed my laptop and set it on the coffee table. "Sure." She sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped, nervous energy radiating. For a second I thought she might cry or snap, but instead she said it. "Rachel said you threatened her." I actually laughed. That was her opening move. "I didn't threaten her," I said. "I told her I knew what she was up to." "She's been a good friend to me," Lauren shot back. "No," I said. "She's been a mirror. You just liked the reflection." Her mouth opened, then closed again. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and met her eyes. "Want to know what she said about you when you weren't around?" She blinked, thrown off. "What?" "I recorded it. I can play it if you want. Your good friend talked about how she pushed you to pull away from me, how she wanted you to shake me up. But she wasn't helping you. She was helping herself feel powerful. She loved being the one in your ear. The one steering the story." Lauren stared at me, frozen. "She laughed at you," I added. "Said I was sharper than you thought, said you made me out to be boring." No, Lauren whispered, voice trembling. You're twisting it. No, I said. I have the recording, there's nothing to twist. She sat back, staring at a spot on the wall. Her hands were shaking now, maybe from anger, maybe from fear, but I wasn't done. Remember the emerald dress? I asked casually. The one you wore to that work dinner? Her head snapped toward me. Funny thing, I said. My coworker saw you, said you weren't with colleagues, said the guy was younger, tall, wore a Rolex. Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. Let me guess, I said. Rachel encouraged it, told you to do what makes you feel alive, told you I'd never find out. Still nothing. So here's what's happening, I continued. I've already met with a lawyer. The papers are being drafted. What? Her voice broke. You're ending this? I tilted my head. You already did, I'm just signing the receipt. She stood up like getting closer would help her case. We can work this out. I didn't mean for. I stood too, calm and steady. You meant every word. You typed them out and hit send like a bomb, and I caught it, read it, and walked away from the explosion. Lauren looked lost. Like the plan she'd been following had just gone up in flames. And then, for the first time in years, I saw it. Regret. But regret's a tricky thing. It doesn't fix anything. It just shows up when there's nothing left to hold on to. She tried again. Rachel, she twisted things. She said you were shutting me out. She said a lot of things, I cut in, but she didn't send that text. You did. Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't think you'd stop loving me. That one stung, not because it was true, but because it was desperate. You didn't stop to think what I'd do without closeness. You just assumed I'd stick around. Silence stretched between us. I did stick around, I added, softer now. I stayed through your distance, your moods, your half-truths. I gave you everything I had left, until you told me not to. I walked past her toward the hall. Where are you going? She asked, panic creeping into her voice. Upstairs, I said. I'm moving to the guest room until the papers are done. The lawyer will reach out this week. You're divorcing me over a text. I paused at the stairs, looked back. No, I said. I'm divorcing you over what came after. The next day, she called in sick. I heard her crying in the bedroom. Heard her pacing, talking to someone on the phone, probably Rachel. It didn't matter anymore. That bridge was ash too. Later that week, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Rachel. I didn't mean for things to go this far. She needed a wake-up call. I didn't think she'd implode. I didn't respond. Because some betrayals aren't personal. They're just selfish. But some endings, they're exactly what you've earned. And Lauren's was coming. She didn't really fight the divorce. She tried at first, talked about therapy, said we could work it out, even cried in the driveway one morning when I walked out with a duffel bag and said I'd be staying at my brother's for a bit. But it wasn't real fight. It was panic. The kind that hits when someone realizes the leash they thought they held wasn't around a pet. It was tied to a man who just learned to break free. The last time I saw her before the papers were finalized, we met at a quiet coffee shop halfway between her office and the law firm. Neutral territory. She wore a blazer and sunglasses, even though it was overcast. Her usual confidence was gone. She looked like someone walking into a meeting she wasn't ready for. She sat across from me, stirred her tea 3 times without drinking, then said, I miss you. I let that sit. She tried again. I think I got lost in my own head. I listened to the wrong voices. I don't know why I did it. I just felt invisible. I nodded. So you made me invisible too. That's not what I meant to do. I know, but it's what you did. There was a long pause. She finally sipped her tea, hands trembling. I didn't sleep with him, you know. I looked out the window. You don't have to say that. I didn't, she insisted. I thought about it. I was going to, but I didn't follow through that night. The dinner, I got to the hotel and I couldn't do it. I met her eyes. You still chose to meet him. She didn't respond. And that's when I realized something key. It wasn't just that she betrayed me. It was that she planned to. She crossed the moral line in her head long before her body ever got there. And she didn't back out because she loved me. She backed out because she got cold feet. There's no love in fear, just hesitation. I'm not angry, I said. I'm done. Lauren looked like she wanted to reach for my hand, but stopped herself. We were good once. Yeah, I said quietly. We were. And that was the last real thing we ever said to each other. The divorce went through smoothly. No kids, no complicated assets. Just a few bank accounts, a car each, and the house, which I signed over to her without a fight. It shocked her, but I didn't want it, not because I couldn't afford it. Because I didn't want to live in a shell of what used to be. The morning I handed the final signed papers to my lawyer, I left the office and walked until my legs ached. I passed coffee shops we used to visit, stores where I'd bought her birthday presents, even the theater where we'd once danced in the lobby because the movie made her feel sentimental. None of it hurt. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like space, Like I was watching someone else's story, someone who had tried, stayed faithful, loved deeply, but in the end walked away before losing himself. 2 months later, I saw Rachel again, at a bookstore of all places. She looked thinner, worn out. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey," she said, "you look good." "Thanks," I replied. "You don't," she smirked. "Fair, Lauren hasn't really talked to me since everything. Guess I burned 2 bridges instead of 1. "You played with fire," I said. "Sometimes it burns you back." She nodded slowly. "I wasn't trying to ruin you guys." "No," I said, "but you wanted to watch her ruin herself. That's not friendship, that's a performance." Rachel looked down and said, "You know, she still talks about you, says she thought you'd chase her, that she didn't think you'd actually leave. She was wrong, she knows that now." I let that sit. "Then good." I turned and walked away. No big exit, no final jab, just the sound of the door and the weight of nothing left to say. It's been almost a year. I've rebuilt my life quietly, joined a hiking group, learned to cook for one without feeling lonely, started dating, not seriously, just enough to remind myself the world didn't end with her. People sometimes ask why it fell apart. I just say we stopped being partners, because that's the truth. Beneath the text, beneath the betrayal, beneath it all. She stopped having my back, and I stopped begging for her attention. Closeness isn't just physical. It's in how you talk to someone, how you look at them, and how you choose them day after day, even when it's tough. She chose pride, I chose peace, and in the end I didn't lose anything. She did. She just realized it too late. Dear readers, please share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.